Welcome everybody to Hands-on with JotaonCode. So today we are going to take a look into different things of JavaScript that are not so good, right? So, or things that we should take care at least. We should see some of these things that are happening there. Whenever we try to see some of the code that comes in shape of using these things, we should pay attention at least. So one of those things is going to be, for example, the double equal. Double equal is not that much of a good command. For example, if you use like this, it will say true. And the reason for this is because it's going to be doing some sort of type conversion between the different commands, and then the operator is going to be working after this type conversion, right? So this is a very well-known thing. So in many cases, you're going to be using something like a triple equal, which is strictly equal or not. So this is one of the things, right? There are a lot of other things there, but let's go step by step. The other one is in regards to mathematics, right? As you can see, mathematics, it's not that it's wrong. It's not that the thing is that it's not as precise as it should be. And the reason for this is the following. You have here the E. This one is the standard of the mathematics engine that's working with JavaScript, right? So this is the best approximation that the engine of mathematics can make for going from binary to decimal. And this is the way that it's working in JavaScript, and as well as many other languages. But having this kind of problem there at the end can be kind of important for you if you are going to be working with money. For those kind of cases, you're going to have to take care of this rounding situations. So for these kind of things, I recommend to use Inertia. So Inertia is a very good library that works with some of the different patterns that were also from Martin Fowler. Martin Fowler is a very well-known developer out there. And this library is using some of these concepts, as well as it is very good one and very handy to be working with when you're going to be working with JavaScript and money. Next one is going to be something that there are some things there that are kind of difficult to say. So what, for example, if you say it's not a number and you put a number, of course it's going to be false, but then you say negation of it's not a number, it's going to be true. So these kind of things, these kind of operands are kind of going back and forth in regards to what is because none means not a number. This is crazy stuff. Just because whenever you actually think about someone who actually thought about this name of this operand, and then it is very convoluted reasoning at some point. So just to pay attention in the way that we are expressing ourselves. Sometimes it is going to help us to handle this kind of operands and this kind of situations. And then there is a very good place that you can see all of the different kind of things of these operands, right? So I really recommend to take a look into this, because this is going to help you to develop things in a more solid way in JavaScript, right? So for example, not using eval, because eval is evil, taking care of different kind of things, like say automatic semicolon insertion. So for example, something I recommend in regards to semicolon insertion, I know that in many cases you're going to be using a transpiler. My recommendation is to be sure of the kind of transpiler or the kind of thing that you're going to be transpiling, right? Because the thing is the following: when you are going to be working with these semicolons, in many cases, when you go for the latest trends, basically they are not using semicolons, and that's okay. I mean, you cannot use this semicolon. You can say I will not use these semicolons, and that's all right, because you know that the transpiler is going to help you to express yourself in the proper way without these semicolons. But if you're not entirely sure about it, in those cases, I would recommend to take care that the minification of your code in production is working out in the way that you're expecting, because you can get into very funny situations when you are going to have a minification of code and the sentence did not finish, and then it get joined with the next sentence. So it's not that I'm saying use semicolon for everything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that just pay attention if you are taking care of these kind of things when you're using your transpiler, being Babel or whatever you want to have there, right? The other thing is in regards to taking care in regards to the way that we are going to using some things in regards to JavaScript. For example, if you use if you use prototypes, not to be changing things in runtime, just defining some prototypes and just taking care of some things to be happening in the moment that you define them. That's good enough, because if you go further and keep on changing the prototype of things, then that could be quite messy at the end for knowing how to debug things, right? So behaviors in general, I try to keep them simple, make them once, and that's it. Cool. So we have some things in regards to JS, the things in regards to JavaScript Garden. I will leave the link in the link of this guy in the video. What else? Well, the other one is going to be in regards to, for example, working with the word this. This is it's a very tricky situation, because in many cases you're going to be using some you're going to be knowing, or you're going to need to know who is going to be the context of your current scope, right? And for using this as a word, you are going to be considering who is the caller, right? And with this, I mean the following. If you're going to be using, for example, something like this, I'm going to make a very simple example, very small one. So if I write here, so as you see, I just printed out who is this, and this is the window, because the window is the color of this timeout, right? So let's suppose that you have a library of JavaScript that is going to be jQuery, or it's going to be anyone out there that's going to be considering the call of it's going to make a defer call, or it's going to be making a synchronous call or an event call to the function that you define here. Then this function is going to be executed by this library, or whoever is going to be calling this library. So using this, it's going to be the library, is going to be the window, it's going to be whoever you're going to be consuming from. So this is something we should pay attention sometimes to know that that this should be the proper context that you're looking for. I'm not saying that the function is wrong. I'm not saying that you can also use arrow function, and the arrow function is not going to create the context for this case, right? So let's suppose that you're going to have a class here. Let's suppose that you are going to be working with a certain class, or anything that's going to be calling this guy, and then this one is going to be no more nor less than just a arrow function at some point. So this arrow function then is not going to take the context, a new context that's going to be inferred by anyone, like the window or a library. So in those cases, I recommend to use arrow function. In other cases, you're going to need to have a function, because, for example, if you have a certain test, and this test is going to be executed by express, express, or we can say mocha, right? Some of these different things there, and you say, okay, I describe my unit test in a certain way, and you say, okay, I want this test to finish in a certain timeout. So set timeout. So for example, in that case, you're going to have there the let's open up this one, for example. In that case, then you're going to need to have a function, because the function is going to take, it's going to be called by the you see here, describe a small test. I just described the very first thing that you could find here in the web, but basically what this guy is using is a function that has a function, has a done. This is pretty old because done is not anymore there into this guy, but he's using the set timeout here. This is not a good reference actually. So let's take a look into something else. But basically the idea is the following: when you're going to be using let's go to Mocha all the way. So anyway, so you see that Mocha here is working with the different functions, and then he's saying set timeout, and he's using this timeout. So this is what I want you to pay attention. The function is generating a brand new scope. This scope is going to be the one who's going to be the color. But if you use an arrow function, then you don't have any more of this. So then you're not going to have any more the method timeout. So this is my recommendation in regards to these kind of cases. Take care to know that whether you're going to be using an arrow function or you're going to be using a certain function, you know that who is going to be the context that you're going to be executing that point of time, right? So that's my recommendation in regards to it. Of course, arrow functions are smaller and they look pretty nice because they're a little bit smaller at some point, but actually conceptually they are different, because for example, functions also has arguments, and you don't have arguments with arrow functions, right? So that's my recommendation. Take a look into functions and when to use functions and when to use arrow functions, right? More than just saying, okay, arrow functions is just a shortcut of functions, because that's not enough. That's not true. There's a bit more than that. So this in regards to JavaScript, taking a look into some of the different good practices, bad practices, and taking into consideration the things that you're looking for at the end of this, at the end of everything that you're going to be doing, right? So have a good day. I hope you enjoyed the video of today, and have a good one.